Hello. I've made a few videos recently with varying different topics which are broadly relevant to my circumstances, life history, testimony and issues that I've faced in my sort of amateur investigative work, and in basically just trying to stick up for myself and my family over the last kind of 10 years really. Gonna leave institutional serial child rapists, gang rape and financial fraud of multi-billion pounds out of the equation in this video. I'm just going to talk about what constitutes a serial killer, and I think it's important that as a nation and as a species we kind of look at people with kind of the motives and the capacity, the propensity and the ability to be able to take another human life, and not just in this instance one human life, but like multiple human lives, and how we as a sort of judicial and social construct sort of view that. And I actually didn't know whether if somebody killed like one person, they're a murderer. If they killed two people, is that like a double murder? I don't know. Or is that still just a murderer, or are they a serial killer? If they killed like your mum and your dad, would they be a serial killer, or would they just be a murderer still? And also the people that kind of help them out as well. A lot of the time people, most of the time people who try and kill people in like criminology stuff that I've read try and make it look like an accident, or they may try and make it look self-inflicted. They've often got networks of people that they work with. They issue bribes to various different organisations, and they've got various accomplices who help to facilitate successful murders within the context of sort of organised crime. And I've read quite a lot fraternalistically as well, within sort of gangs and sects and cults and religious orders, and not with any prejudice to any religious group or demographic, but I've just read that there is institutionally a collaborative effort that often takes place, and that can be facilitated through various different unionised social structures. Anyway, let's have a look at my AI for today. So I asked, how many people does a person or persons have to kill to meet the descriptive criteria of being a serial killer? Also, where does the law stand on those who actively assist and facilitate serial killers in ending the lives of their victims with tasks such as administration, bribery of police or perhaps healthcare staff, coroners or public sector organisations or financial institutions with the motives to cover up the murders? Does killing two people constitute serial killing in the British legal system, or would this be classified as a double murder, with the superlative of serial killer or serial killers only applying after more lives are ended? Also, would additional attempted murders in conjunction with the hypothetical initial two change the definition from perhaps murderer to then serial killer? It said, defining a serial killer, victim count and legal standing of accomplices in the UK. The threshold for a person to be described as a serial killer typically involves the murder of two or more people, although some definitions, particularly older or more conventional ones, specify three or more victims. A crucial element in these definitions is the occurrence of the murders as separate events over a period of time, with a cooling off period between them. It's interesting. This distinguishes serial murder from mass murder, multiple victims in a single event, or spree killing, which is multiple victims in a short period across different locations without a significant cooling off period. It's interesting. While the FBI, that's in the United States of course, places like New York and Brooklyn, historically cited three or more victims, more recent definitions, including from the FBI and the National Institute of Justice, acknowledge that the unlawful killing of two or more victims by the same offender or offenders in separate events can constitute serial murder. So rather than serial killing, they're calling it serial murder. The motivation behind serial killing It's often, though, not exclusively psychological gratification. Legal ramifications for those assisting serial killers in the UK. Under the British legal system, individuals who actively assist and facilitate serial killers in ending the lives of their victims or covering up the crimes face severe legal consequences. Such individuals can be prosecuted as accomplices to murder under the principle of accomplice liability, sometimes referred to as aiding and abetting. This is governed by common law and legislation such as the Accessories and Abettors Act 1861. You know who you are, by all means Google that. Actions such as administrative assistance in the killings, bribery of police, healthcare staff, coroners, public sector organisations or financial institutions with the motive to cover up the murders would fall under the scope of aiding, abetting, counselling or procuring murder. So there you are. To be convicted as an accomplice, prosecution must prove that the individual intended to assist or encourage the commission of the crime, the mens rea, I haven't heard that before, and I guess that's Latin, and did an act that in fact assisted or encouraged it, the actus reus. An accomplice can be tried and punished as if they were the principal offender, meaning they could receive a life sentence if found guilty of assisting in murders, depending on the specifics of their involvement, particularly in covering up crimes. Charges such as perverting the course of justice or conspiracy to murder could also apply. So you might be conspiracy to murder. 2 killings, double murders versus serial killing in the British legal system. In the British legal system, the term serial killer is a criminological descriptor rather than a distinct legal charge. If a person kills 2 people on separate occasions, they would be charged with 2 counts of murder. This would commonly be referred to as a double murder, that's what I thought. The Homicide Act 1957, although substantially amended, indicated that a conviction for a second murder committed on a different occasion could lead to severe penalties. Historically, actually the death penalty. I don't agree with the death penalty. Current sentencing guidelines ensure that multiple murders result in very lengthy minimum terms of imprisonment. The law also permits multiple murder charges to be included in the same indictment and tried together. While legally the individual is a murderer responsible for 2 deaths, whether the term serial killer is applied by law enforcement, the media or criminologists would depend on the presence of either defining characteristics such as the cooling off period and apparent psychological motives, and which specific criminological definition is being employed. Impact of additional attempted murders. The presence of additional attempted murders, I've had a few of those committed against me, and in conjunction with 2 completed murders would significantly escalate the severity of the case, although it would not alter the legal classification of the completed acts as murder. Legally, the offender would face separate charges for each count of attempted murder alongside the murder charges. In UK law, attempted murder requires proof of an act that's more than merely proprietary to the commission of murder and, crucially, the specific intent to kill. An intent to cause grievous bodily harm, which can suffice for a murder conviction if death results, is not enough for attempted murder. Criminologically and for sentencing, attempted murders would strongly reinforce the characterisation of the offender as a serial killer by demonstrating a persistent pattern of homicidal behaviour and intent. This pattern would be a critical factor for investigators in assessing the offender's ongoing risk to the public and would serve as a significant aggravating factor during sentencing for the murder convictions. Evidence of such a pattern of predatory violence would likely contribute to a very severe sentence, potentially including a whole life order, even though serial killer itself is not a standalone legal charge. Well, whether you go for cornflakes, bran flakes, fruit and fibre, maybe Lucky Charms, you can decide whether you think you're an accomplice to serial killing or whether you are a serial killer, or you, plural, are serial killers, with this new information at your disposal. And I would advise everybody to try and avoid getting involved with serial killers where possible, because it's morally reprehensible, it's highly illegal, and it's really fucking dangerous as well. Like, if you kind of do kill multiple members of the same family, for example, or like try and kill the same person on multiple times, they become sort of psychologically distorted and can become quite dangerous too. And I just want to kind of make that kind of distinction really between people who aren't serial killers and people who are serial killers, and how we interact with those people and help them, assist them, be their friends and their sort of accessories and accomplices, and how we kind of look at that and digest that within the context of kind of maybe something that isn't some sort of like moral parallax where we kind of try and justify our actions based on some sort of demented and degenerate warped view of morality, because life is precious and you've only got one, just like it says in every sort of basic religious and philosophical text. But I'll leave you to read those at your leisure, and hopefully all the serial killers who are still at large will spend a bit of time with plenty of books to read in prison in the United Kingdom, and they won't be out killing more people and getting away with it with the help of the police and the healthcare services and the public sector organisations and financial institutions, which sometimes, hypothetically, I've put in this scenario could be involved in the procurement and inaction of serial killing.